How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. As we today will be diving in to our final prediction for when the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Detroit Lions later on tonight. Sunday Night Football is here. And I've talked about this so many times on the podcast leading up to this matchup. A perennial, what could have been, Super Bowl matchup last season. And I saw it several different places. So many people thought that this was going to be what it was. The Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, they made the Super Bowl for the third straight year. And while they did not come up with the victory, the Detroit Lions got eliminated in the first round. Arguably, though, when you look at the two rosters as they stand now compared to how they were last season, Kansas City was very, very consistent, going 15-2, winning countless one-score games as the Detroit Lions defense fell apart. However, going into 2025's Week 6 matchup, we get a Super Bowl, what could have been, what definitely still is a possibility to could be Super Bowl matchup this season. The Detroit Lions, their defense is healthy. They're 4-1, looking to become 5-1, looking to make it 5 straight wins after they got defeated by their division rival, the Green Bay Packers, while the Kansas City Chiefs had their momentum halted by the Jacksonville Jaguars from Week 5 in Monday Night Football, another primetime game for the Kansas City Chiefs. They've lost 3 times this season. The Chiefs have, winning twice, losing to the Los Angeles Chargers, Philadelphia Eagles, and Jacksonville Jaguars, defeating the New York Giants and the Baltimore Ravens. Going up against this matchup against the Detroit Lions, you have the home field advantage. You've got Chiefs Kingdom behind you. My prediction, though, is that it'll still be a very uphill battle for Kansas City. Not saying or having any biasy towards the Detroit Lions. I am an Eastern Michigan graduate myself, but just looking at the way that this Detroit Lions team is playing, they have been very, very effective on the offense. While the defense can still be spotty at times, that's definitely something for the Kansas City Chiefs to take advantage of. If the Chiefs miss one step early, offensively, I do think that the Detroit Lions will take that lead and really knock out the crowd from this game. I think that the Chiefs Kingdom, those who show up at Arrowhead Stadium, and those who are rooting very loudly, whether it be from the radio station or behind their TV screens, the motivation's going to have to be there. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, though that they have been so successful and so dominant since Patrick Mahomes has walked in and made himself the starting quarterback for this franchise, this is a big, big game. Whether or not I've discussed this before, it's a must win. I say no because the season's still young. You get Rashee Rice back next week. Is this a must win, though, to build some confidence? Absolutely. I still think that the AFC West, should the Kansas City Chiefs lose this game, be still wide open. The latter half of the season schedule for Kansas City could definitely benefit them. But for the terms of what we've seen on the field thus far this season through 5 weeks, I'm leaning towards the Detroit Lions. But I'm not here to say that the Kansas City Chiefs are unable to defeat them. The Detroit Lions, if they perform any way that they performed when they took on the Green Bay Packers in Week 1, they are a very beatable team. They also have a pretty banged up, they don't have a pretty banged up, but they do have some injuries on their secondary. And I still think that if the Kansas City Chiefs focus like Zach Gilbert and I discussed leading into the probable breakdown of all this, what this could be if the Chiefs stop the very strong running game that the Detroit Lions possess. I think that there is a way that they can get this job done. I think Trent McDuffie will have a very, very good game against the Detroit Lions. I think Patrick Mahomes, who is going into this game having never beaten Jared Goff in the regular season, that's got to be sitting in the back of his mind. You got to know that Jared Goff knows that statistic. Now, I've discussed this several times that it is not just a quarterback game. This is a team game, and the Chiefs are going to need a lot of their players to step up. I have a strong prediction that Patrick Mahomes will be leading the rushing game once more. I think that there will be a lot of handoffs, but I don't think that there will be a lot of success. I do think, though, that since we didn't see a whole lot out of Xavier Worthy last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, we're going to see a kind of a repetitive game that what we saw in week 4 against the Baltimore Ravens, a game that was deemed a must-win. Everything and everybody seemingly was rooting against Kansas City, and Kansas City had their biggest offensive explosive game of the season thanks to Xavier Worthy. They've got to know, and it was at home, by the way, if they can find that repetitive success. They scored 37 points in that game. The Kansas City Chiefs know the Detroit Lions have their most explosive offense thus far in the National Football League, NFL, the 2025 campaign. I think that there's going to have to be a whole lot of things to go right for the Kansas City Chiefs to be successful. If we see the kind of defense that we saw last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I doubt that this game is close. I don't think that will happen again. I think that was kind of like a fluke in the Matrix. But I do think that Kansas City, if they have a strong chance of winning this game, it's going to be early. It's going to be often. The offense has to be attacking. The defense has to be nearly perfect. And you got to hope that Detroit messes up. If that doesn't happen, and that's a perfect world scenario, I still think that going into this game, I wouldn't be surprised if DraftKings or any sports betting site has the Detroit Lions as a favorite. But, at the end of the day, you make your move. You want to be remembered as a team that wins two, loses two, wins two, loses two, and you finish 2 games under 500, or you want to be the team that is still fighting for a dynasty. The way that you do that is if you take down Detroit. All in all, though, I think that my final prediction going into this game, having seen what we've seen thus far this season from both franchises, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I'm leaning towards Detroit, unfortunately. I do think that there is a world where it happens for Kansas City. Like I said, it's got to be quick, early, and consistent. With that, though, ladies and gentlemen, be sure you follow me over at Dom Minchella on X. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs while we get into week 6, as well as the regular season that follows. Be sure you also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI over on X. Everything gets posted there. Analysis, columns, podcasts, live game threads, game recaps, social media reacts, everything, press conferences, you name it. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is the place to get your Kansas City Chiefs news. As always, be kind to one another. We need more of it in the world. I'll see you tomorrow with my game recap.